Okay then gang, in this lesson we're going to step away from Codex Cloud to look at the Codex CLI tool, which is still a part of the same Codex product. It's just another way of working with Codex. So the Codex CLI is a coding agent, just like Codex Cloud is, but this time we run it locally on our computer from the terminal. And we can ask it to make changes to a project locally on our computer this time instead of remotely like we would on Codex Cloud. Now, if you've ever used Claude Code before, it's basically Codex's version of that. And the good thing about the CLI tool is that we can just spin it up in any project locally on our computer to make code changes within that project. So let's try installing this then and using it within the same project, but this time in our local version of the repo. So I'm on the Codex docs right now, which I will leave a link to down below the video. And down here, you can see that we can install the Codex CLI by using npm or with brew if you're on a Mac. I'm going to copy this first command then, and in my terminal, I will paste it in and then hit enter to install it. Now, before we start using the Codex CLI, I want to say one thing. This product is quite obviously still undergoing a lot of development and changes, so there might be a couple of things which are different if you're watching this video sometime in the future, but on the whole I think the core functionality should be roughly the same. Also, support on Windows directly is considered experimental at the time of recording this video as well. It does still work a lot of the time, and in fact I'm using Windows to make some of this course, but there could be some glitches. In particular, I've noticed buggy behavior when it comes to using MCP servers with Codex on Windows. You can also run Codex in WSL on Windows 11, which some people have said gives you a smoother experience. I've personally not had any major issues running Codex CLI on Windows yet, aside from the MCP stuff, but you should be aware that support is experimental at this stage, so maybe only use it on throwaway projects for now. So then, once it's been installed, we can open a project in a code editor. I'm using VS Code, but the editor doesn't really matter because we'll only be using Codex CLI from within the terminal, which means you don't even really need an editor. But I like to have mine open to see firsthand the code changes that Codex is making. So I'll be using VS Code's integrated terminal to run Codex, but again, you could use a different terminal if you want. The important part is that you navigate to the correct working directory to the root of your project folder within the terminal. Once you're there, the first thing we need to do is log in to the Codex CLI, which we can do by running the command codex login. When you run that, it's going to open up a browser and ask you to authenticate using your ChatGPT account, which I'm currently doing off screen. But when you've done that, you should eventually see a little success message in the terminal which says you're now logged in. Okay, so next we can just run the codex command to start a codex session within this project. And when we do this for the first time in a folder, Codex wants to know if it can work in this folder without asking for approval or whether we should approve edits and commands each time. I'm going to select the first option so I don't get bombarded as much every time it wants to make edits to a file or run commands. Alright, so now we can go ahead and start asking Codex to do things for us. Now you'll see these different commands at the top of the session right here, which Codex is telling us about, and we're going to look at those commands in the next lesson, but for now, let's just ask it a simple question like, can you give me a brief summary of this project? And by the way, you're also going to see this message right here that says MCP client for Playwright failed to start, program not found. So, you know, like before when I said that on Windows I've been having trouble with MCP servers, well, this is an example of this because I tried to get the MCP server Playwright to work on Windows and I was having trouble with that. So this is not going to show in your terminal, only in mine. Don't worry about that for now. Anyway, now I'm going to kick off this by pressing enter. And along the way, you will also have to allow permission for certain things like this to run a command. Alright, so now Codex is finished, and along the way I did have to give it permission to run certain commands on Windows PowerShell, and I think this is one of the areas that it definitely feels smoother on a Mac than it does on Windows, because again, it is experimental on Windows, but it's still done the job, and it's given us a project overview right here. So it's picked up, it's a Next application using React. We've got different landing pages, we have the pair creation routes, we have client-side form logic, we use Tailwind, etc. And it also picks up on how we test different things as well. And then finally, it gives us these next steps. So it tells us how to run the application and how to test the application as well. Okay, so now let's ask it to work on something for us. But before we do, I just want to make sure I move to a new branch so that I'm not messing up the code base. So in a new terminal, I'm going to run git switch with the C flag to create a new branch. And I'm going to call this refactor /btn component. All right, so then we can switch back to the Codex session and we're going to give it a task to do, which is going to be something like, can you make a reusable button component and use it to replace the buttons currently on different pages? It should be able to accept a BG color and a handler function as props. So then we can hit enter and let Codex do its thing. And by the way, when we work locally with Codex using the CLI or with the VS Code extension, which we'll see later, that doesn't automatically add the task to Codex Cloud. It just works locally within this project on my computer, right? And that's why I'm doing this work on a new branch. Now, as it works on this task, it is going to ask me to approve some code changes that it makes as it tries to make them. And there might be several different approvals all within this same task. So for the sake of this video, I'm just going to approve all the changes as they happen. And then at the end, we're going to look at the resulting code. All right then, so that took a little while, but eventually we got there, and I did have to approve a few things along the way. So you can see right here, the changes have been summarized. It said it's added a typed reusable button that accepts a background color, an optional text color, and click handler while preserving other button props. We've wired the new component into the pair creation form, and we've introduced shared button styling hooks. All right, so if we take a look over here as well, if I close this off, we can see the components folder. And we can see that new button component inside here. Now, I'm not going to go through this line by line, but just in general, yeah, we have this button function and then the button template down here. All right, it looks okay at a glance. We have some changes in the app folder as well. So the CSS file, I'm sure, for styling the button. And then also in this form, we can see down here, hopefully somewhere, a new button component. Let's have a look. If we go down to the template, can we see the button anywhere? Should be at the bottom of the form, I guess. Okay, yeah, so we're using that new button component right here as well. So now let's preview this in the browser. All right, now thinking about this, we shouldn't actually see any noticeable differences because I've not asked it to redesign the button or anything like that. I've just asked it to extract the button and put it in its own reusable component. So it should look the same, and it put that in the form. So if we scroll down, well, yeah, it looks the same. And does it still work? Well, let's try clicking on it. And yet we still get that same feedback. And in fact, I think it's updated the error feedback as well. So it has done something extra, which I didn't ask it to do, but sometimes AI models do this kind of thing. Anyway, I'm happy with this. It all looks good. Okay, so just very quickly, I also want to show you how to manually add context to the CLI tool by referencing files for it to look at. Now, by default, Codex can automatically scan your code base and read all the files, but by manually adding the file to the context, you're giving Codex a big hint about where the work should be done, and it keeps it more focused and on track, I think. For example, if I needed some code changes and I knew those changes needed to be on the home page, then I could add that file to the context to let Codex know. To do that then, we could just use the @ sign and start typing the file. And when we do that, Codex is going to start a fuzzy search to list all the possible file paths. And we can just key through these and hit tab on the one that we want to add as context. When we do that, we see that whole path added to the prompt. Under the hood, the contents of that file gets added to the prompt as context. So then I'd just like to write my prompt as normal, asking Codex to do something for me in this file. For now, I'm just going to delete this prompt because there's something else I want to show you. And that is how to add images to context as well. Now, we can do this by dragging an image file into the terminal, and when we do that, we'll see a path to the image right here. So this image is of the Flutter logo, and I want to ask Codex to look at this image and make 2 new theme colors in the CSS file based on the blues in this logo. So I'm going to paste this prompt in, which says, can you look at this Flutter logo image and make 2 new theme colors in the global CSS file called blue1 and blue2? Based on the 2 blue colors in the image. I'm also going to add the global CSS file as context to avoid any confusion by using the @ sign again. And then I'm going to start looking for that CSS file until I see it down here in the options. Then I'll key down to add that file. Alright, so now I'm going to send this request off and see what happens. Alright, so it says it's done those, so let's take a look inside source, then app, and then into globals.css. And yep, we can see those two new theme colors right here, Flutter inspired blue, so it's done that successfully. Okay then my friends, so that's the basics of using the Codex CLI locally in a project to make code changes. And again, it's important that you manually use local branches when any coding agent like Codex starts making those changes, because if not, you're going to find yourself in a world of mess with your code base before you know it. Now typically, what I'd do now is commit these changes. If I'm happy with them, then I'd push this feature branch up to GitHub where we can review it and then merge it into main. I'm not going to do that on camera because this is not a version control course and I want to keep the focus on Codex itself. Anyway, in the next lesson, we're going to continue using the CLI tool and explore some of the built-in commands that we can use with it.